Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. This is episode 1388. It's Q&A day today, people. It's Q&A day. That's the day that people write in their questions. We try our best to give answers. But before we do that, we're here with Miss Mara and Kaustubha. Mara, you got any announcements?
I do. We have Back to Your Cover Group meetings today at 9:30 and 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Tomorrow is Bhakti Center's Urban Devi at 11 a.m. It's Vidarbha Sutta, Devi Dasi, and the topic is The Inspiring Tale of Amara, a captivating story.
Amara?
Yes. Kidnapped by shadows and dragged into a world of darkness.
You don't say.
Where's this going?
How can they not let the men into this? We got to hear this stuff.
Her struggle to reclaim her inner light. Sounds good, though. And
by the way,
I want to mention our interview for tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Tomorrow is interview day, and we have a good friend of mine, Radhika Das. I'm going to interview Radhika Das, who's a great kirtan leader. You know, I did a kirtan with him in London when I was there last, and he wasn't, I mean, he had such a nice, you know, sometimes when people get big at kirtan, you think, well, they're probably a little celeb, got to deal with their celeb ego. The guy's totally humble, totally sweet, and had this great program going at Omnam. Is that what it's called? Omnam?
I guess that's how you pronounce
Omnom. It's like a Krishna cafe, yoga studio place in London, Omnam. And the guy is sweet and a really great kirtan leader. So we're gonna bring him on the show, talk to him. He's Gujarati.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out.
Gujarati.
What state his ancestors are from in India?
Very interesting. Gujaratis come to England. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. We're going to give Kaustubha a day off tomorrow.
A day off, all right. I didn't know those existed. This is great.
So you can pull your life together.
Okay. By the way, save the date. We had a great time at the Bhakti Center Wisdom of the Sages community picnic.
I really didn't want to like that, Kaustubha. You know,
liked
right?
it.
I liked it. I had such a good time.
We had about 60 people come out. It was really nice.
Yeah, it was very good.
And so we're going to do it again on August 26th. No. That would be August 25th. I think that it's on the on the Sunday, August 25th. And August 26th is Janmashtami, Krishna's birthday. So, like, you know, this is a chance to kind of make a thing out of it if you want. You know, take Monday off, come on out here, come out for Sunday, and then Monday at the Bhakti Center. It's the way to go.
Monday at the Bhakti Center.
Maybe you two should think about doing Janmashtami at the Bhakti Center.
Yeah, we usually do something out here. We make different altars around the property, and we sing altar to altar, which is pretty fun too. All right, we got to get our head on straight.
Figure it out.
Janmashtami. Let's figure that out. Also, Thomas Essig, one of our regular Zoomers from the old school days, he made a great documentary about people traveling on their spiritual journey called Something Divine.
With little old Raghunath.
And little Raghunath's in it as well. I made it to the movie poster. But he's doing a premiere showing in Massachusetts, in Arlington, Mass. So I'm going to encourage everybody from Rhode Island, Boston, Maine,
New England,
maybe even the Vermonters to come down, and Western Mass people to come. It's on the 21st of August, which is midweek on Wednesday, and it's at a place called the Regent Theater, and it's at 5 p.m. So we're all going to show up, our whole posse, our Wisdom of the Sages posse, and support Tom S. It's a great movie. I saw it already. He let us watch it. Well, you were here that day. We let us watch it.
I saw it as well. It was very
We had a private
very good.
screening.
we had a private screening in Chatham. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna go out. It's a lot of pilgrimage because he's been on pilgrimage with me many times. A lot of pilgrimage footage, a lot of live shelter
Testimonies.
footage. Yeah, it was very cool.
Testimonies as to what people were experiencing in Rishikesh and Vrindavan,
Yeah, you know,
how the trip was affecting them, a lot of that kind of stuff.
but I think originally he wanted to do it on me, but all these other characters came in the picture and what they're going through in their life and they're facing off with and how spirituality has been shifting their
Yeah,
life around. It came together very interesting, I
very
will say.
interesting to see like the effect that pilgrimage can have on someone's life. Different people are going through different things in their lives, then they're going on the same pilgrimage and how they're processing it, and
Sure, for sure too.
yeah, it was
So
good
anyway,
stuff.
let's all get together. We'll get together then, Tom. You know we'll have a good time then.
Oh, why don't we get into the questions and
Oh,
answers?
Krishna. All right, so let's go to the questions. Here's the first question. This is from Achutananda. He's a regular Zoomer. He's from England. And you know what we should have done? We should have just unmuted him, but we're going to read it. Should we unmute him and have him read it?
Is this the same? Are we certain?
Oh, maybe it's a different Achutananda.
Yeah, there's a chuta, and then there's
Oh,
a
He goes
you know
by
what? You're
Achuta,
right.
and
This
is
is
Achutananda. So
if
it's
we
not the
unmute
same
this,
person.
if
Yeah,
you
what,
unmute
what?
our Achuta, he might be like, I don't have any questions. I understand everything. Okay, this is Achut Ananda, the blissful Achut. I have a question about the word faith because it's used in different ways. Sometimes religious people use the word faith to mean a belief or a hope. They tell us to have faith in the existence of God. It has an undertone of not knowing for sure, but believing anyway, as if in opposition to rationality. Right? Even just believe that you're going to be taken care of when you die, and yeah. But faith can also be one of knowing. We might have faith in a particular quality of a person we know, or in our own skill. Right? I have faith that I'm a good skateboarder and I can make it down this hill. Right? For example. This definition is more akin to confidence. So, what do Krishna devotees mean when they speak of having faith in Krishna? Very good question. And I think because of the English language, the Sanskrit language gives a lot more detail into that word. I think that's where you're going to come from. I'm not going to speak.
Making
I'm not going to speak
assumptions,
for.
are we?
Well, no, I'm only because you are a little Sanskrit wordsmith, and you're going to give different levels of faith, or how that word can be broken apart to mean both of those things.
With the word shraddha or the word vishvasa? What?
I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do.
Okay.
I'll leave that up to you. But
All right.
I will say that you hear this a lot. I heard this a lot growing up in Christianity. Have just faith in Jesus, have faith in heaven, have faith in these things. That seems so like a big leap. It's a very big leap. I never heard anybody tell me about Krishna consciousness like that. Just believe in the demigods. Just believe Ganesh wrote it down. I've heard them say things like, well, could there be an elephant-headed god named Ganesh? I guess there could be. I guess there could be. He might not be there, but he could be there. We first of all, we blow the ceiling from the very beginning off our reality by saying we don't know everything. And that's a big one, I think, for people, is we don't know everything. We have a very limited understanding of reality. It's as if we live under a table and we're trying to speculate about the national parks of America. We live under a table in upstate New York. What do I know about Yosemite? I live under a damn table, right? So
do you ever come out from underneath the
no,
table?
I never come out. Never come out. Imagine if
Interesting.
you were to live in a table, right,
environment.
under a table. This is what we do in this tiny little. And not only that, but our senses are limited. We think we have complete, absolute vision. We create sciences around our puny vision, but our senses are limited, and therefore we can't have perfect knowledge. So in the Vedas, they speak of fantastic things, of devis and devas, or gods and goddesses. We don't know they're real, but we accept they could be real. So if you can approach Vedic teachings as they could be, but what do you know? I take Krishna consciousness in these small, bite-sized pieces. What do you know? and I got a whole list together of things I know, and then I move a little step closer to God. So it's something, it's realized. Pratyakshavamarm dharmyam susukam kartamavyam. That's in the 9th chapter, Krishna says, it's the king of knowledge, the king of education. And because it gives direct perception of the soul by realization, it's the perfection of Dharma. It is everlasting and it's joyfully performed. So on this path, we're experiencing the joy of doing all the little things that we get instructed in sadhana bhakti. And we're like, wow, that feels good. That makes me, this changes my mind. This changes my body. This changes my heart. This changes the way I treat people. This changes the way I treat myself. Oh, I got to regulate my senses. I didn't know that. I was just going all out there. Or I should rise early, or I should regulate my thoughts. I should notice my thoughts. I should see everybody as a spiritual being and not based on their color or their religion or their political affiliations. I should live in a world where we don't have enemies and see them on a more subtle level. And so when we can move forward, we should chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. We should make that a regular practice and see if it affects you. And as I've chanted it for a week, it has affected me. Okay. So we're taking tiny little steps forward. And when I say the English word have faith, it really just means try this stuff out. And if it sounds good, take a little step forward. And that usually involves having a person that I trust, like I trust Kastuba. And Kastuba says, Raghu, you should just try this. Maybe
have faith in me.
Don't eat garlic bread.
I'm not a garlic Nazi over here, okay?
I know you're not, after your confession the other day on the podcast. But anyway, and then so I said, okay, I respect him. So when you respect a devotee and you hear from them and they give you some instructions on a daily sadhana or daily regulated activities, that's called sadhana bhakti. We're doing it on faith of a teacher, and we're putting it into our life and our practice, and we're feeling some type of direct perception that, and I want to move forward. And one of the most common questions we get on the podcast is, what else can I do? How can I make this go deeper? How can I add more to this? And that's where we are. That's why we're doing Sage Academies. That's why we're doing online trainings. That's what we're working for, where people can go deeper into all of this stuff. That's why we do physical retreats where people come to the farm, or we go to Italy, or we have a picnic in New York City, where we can have the association with devotees and walk away from it and feel like, okay, that was something. I experienced something. That's why we go on pilgrimage, where it sort of like changes the whole trajectory. I'm serious. People have life-changing experiences on pilgrimage. And it makes no material sense. It's just a place. It's not like even the nicest place we've ever been to in your life. I mean, I've been to from beautiful places in my travels with my punk rock bands, right? But it's not like we're going to like some place in Switzerland somewhere. We're going to messy India. It's got, it's a little unorganized, little litter on the ground, but people are having life-changing experiences. Why is that? And this is how we move forward in bhakti, these little doses of realization, encouraging us to take small steps forward. Think about progress. Don't worry about perfection. That's coming. Or at least have faith that it's coming.
Oh, there you go.
Ooh, you like that little twist at the end? So that was my very layman's explanation, and I want to hear your
I thought you said lame.
No,
that's my very lame explanation.
No, that's my very layman's. I try to make it regular English. That's me. I'm just a regular guy. But I'd love to hear your very sophisticated explanation.
No, I'm not sophisticated. I'm just an ordinary guy too right now. But let's just open up the dictionary like ordinary people do, right? See what it means. But and we'll do that in a moment. But I think one way that we can look at like history of the world, is kind of a world of competing ideologies. People have different ideas about what life is all about and how it should be spent and what we should do and how we should spend our own time, how we should organize society. We have these competing ideologies about it. And part of that competition is the manipulation of language, you know, how words become defined or redefined,
Mm.
what they represent, what ideas they represent. And I think the word faith is kind of like a word that enters into those, you know,
Yeah.
competitions of ideologies. I think if we open up the dictionary, look at faith, I got it right here. I think this is Merriam-Webster. Faith, a noun, complete trust or confidence in someone or something. That's called faith, right?
Mm.
You have trust or confidence in something. And I think we've been kind of fed a false dichotomy that faith is the opposite of reason, or faith is the opposite of science, right? There's people that are into reason, there's people that are into science. They're rational, clear thinking, people that aren't buying into ridiculous myths and aren't hopelessly confused or emotionally weak and therefore reaching for some kind of crutch, you know, or something like that. And then, you know, then there's those people that have faith. They're like another category person that's, you know, yeah, they're the irrational, silly kind of people that have, no, faith simply means one's conviction, one's trust or confidence in something or something, someone or something. So the way that it works is reason leads to faith.
Mm.
Science leads to faith. Like, you know, here's the definition of reason. The power of the mind to think, understand, and form judgments by a process of logic.
Mm.
So the power of your mind to think and understand and form judgments by process of logic should lead to your trust or confidence in something or someone, your faith. Reason leads to faith. Or here's the definition of science. The systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and the testing of theories against the evidence obtained. That's science, okay? So, your systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, etc., will lead to your convictions or to your faith, to your trust or confidence in any particular thing or idea. So reason leads to faith, science leads to faith, philosophy should lead to faith, religion should lead to faith, yoga should lead to faith. We're all developing our convictions through different types of reasoning or experimentation. It's not that the two are opposite. And you know, there's some very reasonable, and when I say reasonable, I use that term intentionally. In other words, through reasoning, we can come to our faith. Like, and we say we share things like this on the show sometimes. Let's say that you go to sleep and it's snowing, and you wake up in the morning, and right there in front of your house is a snow sculpture
Mm-hmm.
that is like a perfect replica of Michelangelo's David.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay. I
So,
like this. I like this analogy.
I mean, it's like perfect. It's like, whoa, you know, like that's amazing. Now, due to my mind's power to think and understand and form judgments based on a process of logic, I will likely conclude that a human being created that snow statue rather than the idea that it just fell like that,
Sure.
right? That would be, you know, through my systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, which is called science, I would logically infer or conclude or develop the faith that a human being or human beings or some kind of alien or some kind of living creature with intelligence and will and so on created that structure. But I can't prove it.
Mm.
Someone could say, well, you can't prove that. And I'd be like, they could say, it's just your faith. Well, yeah, it's my faith, but it's a faith based on reasoning. It's a faith based on
Reasonable
experience.
faith, I call it. Reasonable faith.
Yeah, but I think even when you say it like that, it almost sounds weaker. You know,
Sure.
like, you know, it's faith based on reason. It's like, it's faith based on all my experience in this world. I have that conviction. And if you're going to tell me that it just happened on its own, I'm going to say, no, that's unreasonable.
Mm.
I've experienced too much in this world to believe that that's remotely possible. That's unreasonable. It's kind of like saying, like we would say science is, we can experiment with boiling water, and we see that at 211 degrees Fahrenheit, it's not boiling, but once it gets up to 212, it boils.
Is that it? 212?
Yeah. Say it right now. And,
Takeaway. Well, water boils at 2. I thought it just when it got hot, it boiled. No, there's actually a number.
Raghunath, the science guy. The botany's his thing. So, someone could say that we've concluded through scientific experiment that water boils at 212 degrees, and someone could come along and say, well, that's just your faith. Well, no, we experimented with it, and every time we do, okay, but every time, but you don't know if the next time.
You don't know.
That's your faith.
So you're
that's
right.
not
So that's
reasonable.
beyond reasonable faith. That's very rational faith.
That's irrational. Like, you're
So
saying,
it's
to
well, I'm
believe
saying
that
it's-
it boils.
to believe that it's going to boil again at 211.
It's very
I
rational.
like to say 100 degrees Celsius. That's what I like to say.
That's
It's
in
a
one
little bit
sense,
more
that's
international.
a little bit more rational way to go about things. But we're
Um,
never going there, Raghunath. We're never going there as a country.
We tried.
So I believe that influential people are kind of like taking a crowbar and trying to take any, this idea. There's a big bang, and then there was evolution, and that's how things got here. I don't see, if that's not faith, like,
It doesn't
it's a
get more of
conviction.
a fantastic creation story than that.
Yeah, so we shouldn't be bullied or intimidated by this kind, and we shouldn't be fooled by different types of, I don't know, I guess you could call it like intellectual bullying. No, the fact is that everybody in the world is developing their convictions based on how well they can apply their reason, based on how well they can apply their science. But
Yeah.
but it's not that there's faith on one side and reason on the other side, or faith on one side and science. That's not how it works. And the importance of faith in the practicing of bhakti, the importance of the confidence in someone or something becomes very important, because you're following a path. It's just like if let's say someone was visiting New York City.
Okay.
And they needed to get somewhere. And, I'm from here. I can help you get there. I can give you good directions how to get there. And I could say, you walk down to this street, then you take a left. Then you walk this many blocks, and then you take a right.
Hmm.
And then, when you get here, actually, it kind of dead ends, but you got to go around this way. And, and I could give you directions. And someone might be following those directions, but have doubt in my ability to give good directions. Or maybe at first they had faith in my directions, but as they started going, it wasn't playing out like they had anticipated. And they're losing faith that my directions are accurate ones. And someone might say, no, someone might say, I think Astuba was wrong. I think maybe we got to do this. And then someone might say, no, just have faith. Like, he knows what he's doing. He knows this area. He knows it much better than we do. Have faith that what he's saying is correct, even though it may not seem to be correct right now, or even though it may be challenging to your presumptions. Have faith. And that's what faith means in the practice of bhakti. There's a lot of talk about having faith in one's guru, having faith in these sacred texts, having faith in them, because they're meant to direct you to come to a place, that you have to make that journey to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And as you go on that journey, if you don't keep the faith, then you can get diverted. So just like in anything, let's say I want to study to be, like a violinist or something like that, and at a certain point I'm losing faith in my teacher that they can actually help me do this, or that's how we apply reason. We go and we say, well, they've had many good students. Have this teacher, look at all the students they've had in the past. I have faith in them, so that even when what they're saying to me is challenging, I say, well, I have faith, right? Because based on my reason, I see that many good students have, many of their students have become experts. Then I'll have faith. It's not unreasonable. It's not some ridiculous religious, mythological. No, it's just clear, rational thinking. If I'm looking at a person as a guru, that one has very consistent, clear answers to my questions, and that I see that they have achieved a state of awareness that I admire and that I want. You use your rational thought to establish your conviction, to establish your confidence, to establish that I'm on the right path here. Essentially, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about faith. The conviction that I'm on the right path. That's faith in bhakti. So it's not different than if we just open up the dictionary, complete trust or confidence in something or someone.
Hmm.
And it's no different than in any other kind of field in that sense, that we apply our reason, we put it to the test, we experiment with it, we see if it holds up.
Hmm.
And then once you develop that conviction, strong conviction in bhakti, there is a famous verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Shraddha Shabde Vishvasa Kahe Shuddha Nischaya Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krita Hoya. That Shraddha Shabde, the word Shraddha, Vishvasa Kahe Sudhrida Nischaya, that it refers to this firm conviction that Krishna Bhakti Kaile, that simply by performing devotional service to Krishna, simply by bhakti to Krishna, Sarva Karma Krita Hoya, that all my responsibilities are fulfilled. Nothing's lacking. I don't need anything else. I haven't. That's enough in life, right? That's it's complete and thorough. That it's not missing anything. That Shraddha means the confident, firm faith that by rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically has performed all their subsidiary activities. It's all covered in that. So one has to have that kind of faith if they're going to reach the end of it. It's a challenging thing. And so that's how faith plays out in the practice of bhakti. All right?
Like it. Good job.
Thank you, Raghunath. All right.
All right. Let's go to the next question. Achyuta, good. It was.
And thank you
Achyuta.
for not breaking into George Michael.
Isn't it interesting?
Good,
There's a
Raghunath.
few songs we have that are always on rotation on this podcast.
You're doing good, Raghunath.
That's one of them.
Okay.
Oh, this is from Danny Kazakowski.
Oh, Danny Kazakowski.
He's a regular Zoomer, a regular other, a regular Zother. If you're new to the show, an other is a person on Zoom every morning. So most people are out there listening to our podcast on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. We never see them. Occasionally, someone will come up to us in the subway or on the street and say, "Oh my God, Wisdom of the Sages, I love you guys," or "Wisdom of the Sages, what's up?" or something like that. And we're like, "I listen," but we've never seen them on Zoom. It's quite shocking. But they're out there. They're called others.
All right.
So she's both. She's on the show live. Sometimes she's out there as an other. Sometimes she comes up to the farm. She's a wonderful artist.
Oh, Raghunath, it looks like Achyuta is Achyutananda.
Yeah. Oh, look who's reading the message board, because Stuba is. Huh? Isn't that interesting? Okay, here's what Danny Kazakowski says. Dear Prabhus, I miss you. I've been an other since going back to work and praying for some in-person association soon.
We're against work here at Wisdom of the Sages.
No, we work our butts off, but anyway, you get it.
Okay.
Thank you all for your continued endeavors and amazing service and all the love. All right, so she's still out there listening as an
Thank
other.
you, Danny.
After not being in a workplace for about 4 years, I feel like a complete alien when interacting with most of my coworkers. I know you have spoken on this topic before, but I could use some reminders. I work in a big, beautiful library, and traditionally librarians have been open-minded, but lately I feel like I'm in bizarro world.
Yep.
The general conversation in the offices is mundane and insane. My teens have zero respect for librarians or teachers. They talk over me, curse, throw things. Ooh,
Out of control.
out of control, these teenagers. And
These
many of
kids.
the staff are outwardly political. Oh, when she says my teens, she's not talking about her personal teens. She's talking
No,
about the
the
teens in the
students in the
library.
school were
I was
the
wondering. I was
library.
like, boy, it's a little too much information about your kids throwing stuff. You gotta control those kids. But I get it. Yeah. Yes. Also, our building and grounds used to be a convent. Interesting. I was asked to produce a giant display as an homage to the specific order of the nuns that used to live here. Isn't that nice? And includes several bibliographies. After 4 months of work, I had painted the display, searched out vintage titles, made a timeline, etc. I also had 6 bibliographies. A bibliography is
A collection of books that are
Collection of
used
books.
as reference.
okay. Formed from keywords of the mission and vision of the nuns. Very interesting. I would have loved to see that display. Obviously, the books in the bibliographies included titles on God for kids, teens, and adults, and general pictures in the books, general self-help for teens, and more specific for adults. After
Okay.
2 weeks of being on display, all of them were taken down because a few patrons complained about separation of church and state.
Patrons, not Patreons. Let's have it right there.
The patrons from our community. No. Okay.
Patrons.
I was really angry. I mean, we have books on all subjects, yet I cannot use the word God.
Hold it, you missed that. The books
Yeah.
weren't random. They were
The books weren't
pertinent.
random; they're pertinent to the display.
Okay.
So it's just like it's a library. You're studying everything. You're studying history.
Oh, hold
Sometimes
it.
there's.
Finish the question before you start to
Okay, I'm
answer.
sorry. I'm ready to rant now. I'm upset about this.
Okay.
I need tips for how to remain Krishna conscious in an environment that believes God
Hold
is
it.
the
You
enemy.
keep skipping sentences here. I was really angry.
I was really angry. I mean, we have books on all subjects, yet I cannot use the word God. Rant over. I need tips for how to remain Krishna conscious in an environment that believes God is the enemy. Kastuba, Raghu, and Mara, thank you for your example, inspiration, and support. Oh, I'm furious right now, Danny. I just want you to know. I'm with you. I'm furious. I'm ready to flip
you're
I'm
like
ready
one
to
of
flip
those-
some tables.
You're like one of those parents at the
School board meeting.
School board meeting. Where you really get to rant.
Standing up and just like chastising the whole school board. They have to get taken out by a cop. That's me right now. First of all, you're doing a history class.
No, she's not doing a history class.
No, she was doing a timeline in respect to what
That's
this
historic.
place was. That's history.
It's
That's
historic.
history.
Yeah.
And guess what? God and religious movements are part of history. Especially when you built it in a convent, you probably had to what do you call? Evacuate some nuns when you started that library. You probably had to kick a few out. How to remain Krishna conscious. It's hard. It's hard for me. And it's and the world has gotten so incredibly hateful. I tell you, you can't even look at the news. You just get so angry. And the algorithms, this is what they say. It's the algorithms that just pushed us farther and farther apart.
Algorithms.
Algorithms are the enemy. But
Yes.
if you can keep the main thing, see everybody as part of God and lean into that. And Kostuba and me, we've had this conversation because we see the world go off track on so many ways. And it's not like we don't have opinions on it, but we don't push there on some of the details. I'm not pushing about animal rights, even though animal rights is very important. I'm not pushing on vegetarianism, veganism, although those things are very important. Why? Because if a person really is against veganism,
Yes.
that doesn't exclude them from the higher thing. Get people into the highest thing, and then all the other good things will follow. Don't push the details, push the real principles. And a main principle is that we're tiny parts of the Supreme. Krishna is the center. Krishna is a name for God, and he's the source of all avatars, and God sends different missionaries in this world. You don't have to go into these political hot minefields with people. See, and also you convince more, you attract more with honey than you attract with vinegar.
There you go.
There you go, vinegar,
Thank you, Mayor.
right? We try, yeah. So when people see that you're actually connected in your Krishna consciousness, it's very attractive. If you're going around Bible thumping or Bhagavad Gita thumping for people to change, shaming people to change, getting in nasty debates with people, you might win the debate, but you don't win their heart over. So you have to create a protective shell around you, sort of like a snow globe. You have to have a little snow globe through your
True.
through your sadhana, through your
Little
chanting, and through your hearing.
space suit kind of like
Little
helmet.
spacesuit. In the old days, I used to have this GI Joe guy that could go underwater, and before scuba diving, they had these giant metal helmets, these like lead shoes, and you'd
With
walk
like
at the
the
bottom of the
oxygen
ocean with a long
tube.
oxygen tube that went up to the
Umbilical
boat.
cord.
Yeah, you got to be like that, walking into these places, like you're in it, but you're not of the insanity. Don't go into those conversations. Keep the conversations high in appreciation, in gratitude, in divinity. Keep a little altar on your desk. It's my private little altar. And then when people see how different you are, they want to be like you. They're going to ask you questions. That's when people start asking you questions, hey, man, what are you into? That's when you have
God.
leverage. A
Okay,
little
no,
boy.
thank you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's when you ask you questions. I've been in situations myself. I remember like in martial arts,
you?
you know what I mean? I just, where no one's, I'm not there to preach
They
to
weren't into what
everybody.
you were into.
Not necessarily, but you know what? I didn't try to preach to them. I just did my thing. And eventually, when people see they like you, they respect you on their terms, then you can speak to them. When they start to inquire, what are you into? What do you like? Oh yeah, and then they ask you questions. But you got to be that example first. That's what I find. Create that bubble with a strong sadhana and attraction to Krishna, which comes from chanting and reading stories about Krishna. And then you can go in it anywhere. You can go into the fire, but you're well protected.
I like that, Roga. Thank you.
What do you think about that?
I think that I appreciate what you've shared, and I think that this question it's a little bit related to the previous one. Um, where it again has to do with competing ideologies, right? This, you put up something you're asked to do something, you do it well, and then someone comes along and says, "Hold, this is about God, and there's supposed to be a separation between church and state, and so take it down." And because they're the patrons, then they have to cave to that pressure. Now, I don't know if this is a public school or a private school.
I couldn't quite tell.
Yeah. But let's assume that it's a public school, because if it's not a public school, then the question of the separation of church and state doesn't even come into play,
Yeah.
right? So let's assume that it's a public school.
It is public.
It is public.
There
by the
we
way.
go. Public. Thank you, Danny. So here's the thing: the separation of the church and state is there. It was Thomas Jefferson that kind of like wrote on this, originally, and it was out of his writings that this idea developed about the separation of church and state. And the idea is that an oppressive institution can't come along and bully everyone, pushing their ideology on everyone. That's so when it comes to the government, to the governing of the state, we shouldn't allow an institution like that to come in and push themselves around. There should be freedom for everyone to express their ideas. No institution could come along and say you can't talk about those ideas. That's the value of the separation between church and state. The irony is that these patrons are more or less doing that same thing here. They're saying, I have my ideology, and I don't want any other thought that competes with my ideology. I don't even want a whiff of that in here. Even if you're just telling history, I don't want to hear it, and I definitely don't want any kids following up reading books that might in any way be counter to my ideology. So you got to take this down. It's, there's a competition. I mean, there's always a competition. For, what, where we could really start this, because this gets to where Danny's question goes. I've come to this in my 50 years of wandering through this world, Danny. I've come to the conviction that this world is always a mess. It's like, particularly in this age, and it never snaps into place like we'd hope it would snap into place. So
And the messier people are, the more arrogant they are.
it's true.
It's like it goes hand in hand with messiness is
Yeah,
arrogance.
the stronger it's often the people that are most strongly vocalizing their opinion that are like the most thick-headed, commonly. So there's always this competition, tension between liberal and conservative. The liberal idea is it has to do with compassion for those that are vulnerable and like an antipathy towards those that may oppress. That's the liberal concern. And then there's the conservative concern. And the conservative concern is like respect for tradition because it helps to maintain order. And that's important in society. And what we do nowadays is we choose one or the other and we demonize the other.
Really
Whereas
demonize the other.
actually there needs to be a balance. Life is all about balancing out these two concerns. That's what it's for. If you get too liberal, everything gets crazy and falls apart. And if you get too conservative, it gets oppressive and so on. And the bizarre thing is let's take what's going on here in Danny's idea is the liberal idea is being pushed to the extent that it becomes oppressive. That's the irony in this is that now there's someone dictating what books they're banning books. Like the liberals are supposed to be the ones that are against banning books, right? The conservatives are like, we can't have people reading all kind of things because it's going to disturb the order. And the liberals come and say, no, you have to have freedom of thought. Don't oppress me with your with your power and your ideology. Don't force that upon me. Give everyone the freedom. Everyone should have the freedom to pursue what ideas they want without this institution, this religious institution, or whatever, imposing on us. But now the same thing is coming back the other way. People are thick nowadays. They don't think very deeply. They grab an ideology, but they don't really test it themselves, or they approach it on such a shallow level that they don't see the internal contradictions that are taking place. And we see going up to the highest levels, right? Like this whole thing kind of played out in
Harvard.
Yeah, like that's a very good example.
Columbia University.
Yeah, like in the highest universities, and then they bring them before like our Senate, right? Like our Congress.
Are you watching Senate hearings? Is that what's going on?
Our Congress is supposed to be like, we've chosen all our representatives, like these people that are really got their act together and that could, that have the ability to purely, represent the interests of their people. And then we have our highest universities. These are like the deepest thinkers. And so, and these people and they're so incredibly clueless because they grab an ideology rather than grabbing principles. Like meaningful principles. They can't determine what is free speech, what is hate speech, they can't, they have no idea, and they just expose themselves as almost like their ability to make decisions has come down to this like incredibly childish level, like where they're almost clueless.
And they're trying to appease a fringe population as well, like because they're leaders, so they're trying to appease, keep their jobs, etc.
Sure.
And in fact,
and deal with their patrons.
Yeah, and not deal with the basic principles.
Yeah,
it's pretty simple. These things are pretty simple, and I think most of the demographic is somewhere in the middle there, and there's just fringes on either
no doubt.
side.
Yeah, and I think
Stuba on the middle path. I like
the middle path.
Tell us, Buddha, how to walk this middle path.
But I think the way that these kind of pressures have become so intense that I think it dumbs us all down. It gets us to this point where we can't think very clearly. We need like debate and we need that kind of stuff, like healthy societies, it's there in the Vedic society. Like debate was like a big thing, people could take it too far, they could get too into it. But yeah, we should be able to intelligently discuss, rationally discuss these ideas. Danny, you're in a place where, it's our schools that maybe are the most confused on this, which is really ironic,
It's time
right?
to homeschool.
They're
teach.
they are really meant to be the places where ideas are brought up and discussed and debated. That's what schools are meant to do. They're not meant to push an ideology. They're meant to help you think. They're meant to train you in the ability to think, and
There you go. Not what to think, how to think.
Yeah, and so here's some shallow thinking patron that's like, we can't have any talk about God in here. That's contradicting the principle of separation of church and state. No, you're doing exactly what you don't want the church to do. You're just competing. You just want to win by being oppressive, as you've seen the church be oppressive by banning books that disagree with you. That's what churches do, right? So they don't understand, and they likely never will. So how do you deal with that, Danny? You can. I would keep a peaceful head, right? I know it's driving you crazy. I would, you might want to word out something that's saying, hey, it seems to me like, there's a misapplication here about the concept of the separation of church and state. The separation of church and state is meant to prevent a church from, forcing ideology on people. And I was just reporting history that people can take in and compare it with other history and compare it with other ideas. This is supposed to be a place where all the ideas come up and people learn to think about them and choose their own way of living. And you're forcing an ideology on people by banning books. What's happening here? Isn't this a contradiction? You can express that, maybe write it or something, but don't expect that you're going to win. You're in an institution that's probably deeply lost in its ideology. Maybe not. Maybe you could win. Maybe it comes to the attention of the right person. They say, that's right. We need to carefully consider how we make these decisions. So you could try that. You could write a little response and share it with appropriate people. But also, I think what Raghunath is saying is going to be really important. You got to put on your spacesuit too, and try not to let your work world, your work environment drive you nuts. Realize that you're living in a world that's kind of crazy. Yeah. Operate the best that you can in it, and focus on your own transcendence too. Don't let that become disturbed. That's kind of what we were reading of this past week, right? You should have your own internal world going on even when you're working in a world, and sometimes you're just a little bit agreeable in that work. Okay, you want to take it down, whatever. You can be there too.
The externals are going to get very, very bad. Danny, just putting that out there. It's going to get worse. And you know what? Then it's going to get better. Then it's going to be great, and everyone's going to love what you're doing and think you're the creative.
Yeah, it swings this way.
And then it's going to get worse. It's going to get really oppressive, and everyone's going to drive you crazy. It's just always gonna
swinging
change.
this way, swinging that way.
We have to remain sort of fixed within our own world. Good question.
Good question, Danny. Good luck, Danny.
Good luck with that. I want to see the display. I want to see the bibliography.
We want to see it, Danny.
Yeah.
We can appreciate it.
Right. That might be the day. That might be our morning.
We're done.
All right, Mara. There's no takeaways. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on Q&A Day. Tomorrow is interview day with Radhika. The students got the day off. Stuck with me and Radhika. And remember, we have a Wisdom of the Sages retreat upstate over Columbus Day. I don't think you can say that anymore, Nanny. Can't say Columbus Day. Indigenous people. Oh, man, I heard it great. Indigenous people. Get this desk room. But anyway. Columbus Day weekend. Upstate. Riversoul Farm. Join us. It's on Wisdom of Sages website. Go to wisdomofages.com. And not under events. You got to go scroll down more to. Go to my website. It just goes right to it.
It's under retreats. on our website.
Or go to rockingup.yoga under events. Click on it. It takes you right to the Wisdom of Sages.
It takes you back to Wisdom Station.
Back to Wisdom of Sages, but deeper in it. And also, remember, we're going to check out the film, Something Divine, August 21st. Let's do it. Let's go on pilgrimage to Arlington, Mass.
Martine's going.
That'd be fun. I want to thank David Houseworth. He bought a case of books,
I love it.
case of Punk to Monks to give out to friends. If you want to buy a case of books, give them out for the holiday season. I can get you a, what's it called, a bulk discount? Wholesale discount. Okay, for postage, get a wholesale rate. Perfect. All your Christmas shopping done.
You know, people can consider for Christmas opening up a Punk to Monk pop-up store.
Punk to Monk pop-up store in a mall, maybe a little like one of those kiosk.
Kiosk.
Kiosk. Big cutout version of me pointing my finger with X on my hands. You can do it. Good luck to our good friend and regular Zoomer Paramananda, who's moving to Gainesville this week.
This week, wow. We're going to miss him in the area.
I'm gonna miss him in the area. Not that he ever comes over that much, but
He does,
I see him at Zoom. He is, yeah. Rocco
Why is
goes
he going
back
down
this
there
week.
again? He just wants good Sangha?
I don't know. I think he hates cold weather.